Jill is not having a good day. She is on the run, falsely accused of treason by her fiancé, Prince Gerald. And why? Because she found out about his very questionable obsession with his sister. Instead of clearing her name, she gets sentenced to death. Or at least it should have been. Until she wakes up 6 years in the past, realizing she's got a second chance. She pulls the fastest escape plan ever, randomly confessing to the first guy she sees. And plot twist, that random guy, he is Emperor Hades, the most dangerous man in the world and future enemy of Kratos' kingdom. Hades is intrigued by her magic and her ability to see the dragon god Rave that only Hades can see. He whisks her away to his empire, but there's a catch. He casually mentions it would have been better if she was 3 years younger. But wait, Jill is only 10 years old. Jill tries to backtrack, saying she just needed an escape, but after seeing Hades isn't all that bad, she commits to it. And congrats! Jill, you're now engaged to the emperor of your ex-fiance's worst nightmare. Hades seals the deal with a ring, officially making Jill his fiancé, a move that's definitely gonna take off her psycho ex Gerald. But before she can celebrate, their ship gets attacked. Jill, refusing to die twice, teleports the entire ship to safety in Bilberg, a town in Rave. There, Jill meets Spear, Hades' supposed future fiancé. In the last timeline, this chick straight up murdered any girl who even breathed near Hades. Meanwhile, Hades casually drops a bomb. Every prince ahead of him mysteriously died. Suspicious? Absolutely. The next day, Jill, now in spy mode, snoops around the town and discovers Kratos' soldiers have kidnapped Spear. But before she can even process that, Spear's father frames Jill for the attack. Jill gets thrown in the deep end, forced to hear Spear's tragic love story. Realizing this is all set up, Jill pieces together that Marquis Bell planned this kidnapping. But before things take a dark turn, 2 dead soldiers from the last timeline show up, alive and kicking, to save Jill and Spear. Jill, Spear, and the soldiers Camilla and Zeke put the pieces together. Marquis Bell staged this whole mess to trash Hades' reputation. And if Spear had to die in the process, oh well, just another day in noble politics. Jill realizes Spear's murder was meant to cover up the Northern Army disgrace, so she blows her own cover and hatches a wild plan, break into the castle, wreck its walls, and rescue the captured soldiers. To bait the enemy, Jill lets herself get captured, then flips the script and wrecks the ruffian's leader. Meanwhile, Zeke and his team torch the enemy's ships and stop a priest from straight up murdering Spear. Then, just as Marquis Bell thinks he's got the upper hand, he pulls out a dragon to obliterate Jill and company. But guess who's 10 steps ahead? Hades waltzes in, takes one look at the dragon, and snaps it under his control like it's a pet lizard. Hades sends the dragon away and scares the life out of a military officer for failing his duties, who then spills that Marquis Bell was behind everything, leading to Bell's arrest. That night, Hades gets drunk and demands apples from Jill. When she struggles, he just eats them himself. The next day, Camilla and Zeke become Jill's official bodyguards. Jill casually admits her marriage to Hades was just an act, but Zeke notices her ring and reveals that she is cursed by the goddess of Kratos. Camilla explains the ancient rivalry between goddess of Kratos and dragon god Rave, which ended in a cursed separation by a magic shield between their lands. Although they were cursed, their land ultimately became prosperous when they married. Before Jill can process any of this, she gets a letter from Gerald. He is coming to take her back to Kratos. Gerald shows up in Rave, demanding Jill back, but she hits him with a power move. She's staying because she can see the dragon god, something Hades needs. Then Marquis Bell dies mysteriously, and the civilians start panicking. They're convinced the Emperor's curse is real. Meanwhile, Camilla and Zeke dive into more Asian drama. The goddess of Kratos transformed into a sacred spear to bypass the shield that separated their lands. The spear was presented to the Emperor of Rave, which she impaled the dragon consort. The consort stabbed herself with the heavenly sword to trap the goddess and destroy the curse. Back to present, Spear is possessed by the goddess Shadow and attacks Jill, but Hades comes in clutch. One shot Spear and orders Zeke and Camilla to take her to the palace. Jill connects the dots. Spear turning 14 means she's the new vessel for the goddess, which explains why Hades only wanted a bride under 14. In Chaos Era, rebels set Bilberg on fire, and Hades goes full murder mode while Rave traps Jill behind a magic shield. This night just keeps getting worse. Jill is stuck inside Rave's magic barrier, which protects her from the goddess but also erases everyone's memory of her. Meanwhile, Camilla and Zeke catch Marquis Bell faking his death while trying to flee Kratos. Jill realizes that destroying the sacred spear could stop this madness, and she finds out that Rave himself is the heavenly sword. With no time to process, Hades, Jill shatters the shield, summoning the goddess. The spear attacks, and hold up, this is the exact weapon that killed her in the last timeline. Not this time, Jill breaks it, defeating the goddess. But wait, Gerald kidnaps her. Hades show up, wrecks Gerald, and literally yeets him into the mountains. Afterwards, Jill tries to confess to Hades, but it goes horribly wrong. She tries again later that night. Nope, still not ready. Maybe third time is the charm. Jill and Hades head to Realm, the capital of Rave, but bad news, Hades' uncle George attacks them with his so-called real heavenly sword. Both Jill and Hades get injured, and George declares he doesn't recognize Hades as the Dragon Emperor, as Hades' heavenly sword is fake. Before Hades can clap back, Rave teleports them away to a neutral village in the Duchy of Neutral. But Jill and Hades lose their magical energy, and Jill can no longer see Rave. Jill remembers that in the last timeline, George led the False Emperor rebellion and overthrew Hades. With their powers gone, they go into hiding for 6 months until their energy returns. Or at least that's the plan. After a month, the quartet received the news about George searching for Hades in every region. Jill and Zeke decide to infiltrate the Dragon Knights for intel, but Jill, being Jill, attacks the dragon at its weak point, not realizing it's part of a test. Captain Alencia arrives and is impressed by this young girl's power. Jill and Zeke start training under Alencia, who gives them a crash course on the Dragon Knights ranking system. But when it's time for compatibility tests, Alencia's dragon Rosa straight up attacks Jill. Translation, it means she's not dragon friendly. Hades, ever the supportive husband, cheers her up and casually offers to fight Rosa if things go south. The next day, Jill runs into Lawrence, a guy who's always made the right choices in the last timeline. As they talk, Ristier, the second prince, pops up and orders her to deliver a message to Alencia. Alencia spills the tea. She and Ristier believe Hades is the true emperor, but dukes refuse to support him. Why? They lost a crown prince to the curse, and nobody wants history to repeat itself. Jill heads home and Ristier follows her, and before you know it, Ristier is shocked to see Hades there. Hades joins Jill to confront Alencia and Ristier about where they stand. Before they get an answer, George burns down an entire village, subtle as always. Thankfully, everyone evacuated safely. Later, Alencia drops another bomb. Gerald's sister, Ferris, arrives to propose to Hades. Apparently, she has 6 years before she becomes the goddess vessel, and marrying Hades might smooth tensions between Kratos and Rave. Jill, big brain mode engaged, tells Hades to accept the engagement, but only to use it as a political move so Alencia can mobilize her Dragon Knights. The plan shut it down at the perfect moment. Meanwhile, Hades hears rumors that Jill is secretly in love with Lawrence. Jill immediately shuts it down, but not before admitting that she has been bullied by some Dragon Knights. They really don't know who they are messing with. George sends troops to hunt Hades, while Alencia secretly arranges a meeting between Hades and Ristiard at a specific location. Sounds sketchy already. Jill, Hades, Zeke, and Camilla, Ristiard, and Lawrence head out for the meeting. Camping overnight, Lawrence, always paranoid, warns Zeke and Camilla that this could be a trap. The backup plan, if things go south, head for the Dragon's Nest. And sure enough, it's a trap. The group arrives at the meeting spot, and Alencia, still following George's orders, betrays them. She takes Jill hostage, but Hades, despite his magic being sealed, leaps onto Alencia's dragon, fights George, and frees Jill. Zero hesitation. Meanwhile, George's troops ambush the others, but in the most weird twist so far, they get saved by some stuffed chicken familiars. Yep, you heard that right. Jill wakes up in the dragon's nest after getting knocked out and teleported by a black dragon. Meanwhile, Hades, captured. The black dragon attacks Jill, refusing to recognize her as the dragon consort. But Jill, ever resourceful, realizes her magic is still sealed and that George's sword is actually made from the sacred spear. Jill charms the black dragon and convinces it to let her ride it to freedom. She heads to the cave where Ristiard and the others are regrouping for a counterattack and immediately clashes with Alencia. Ristiard, done with betrayal drama, demands answers from Alencia, but before things get heated, George shows up with a bombshell. Hades isn't even blood-related Rave. Jill, sword broken, magic sealed, and completely outmatched, still stands her ground to fight George. But before she makes her move, Hades suddenly returns. Oh, it's about to go down. Hades completely loses it and tries to kill George, Alencia, and Ristiard. But before he goes full murder mode, Jill calms him down in the most Jill way possible. Babe, let's make 10 kids. And just like that, she speed runs, taming the raging emperor. Meanwhile, George isn't done yet. The fake heavenly sword devours him, turning him into a monstrous one-eyed dragon. Before he can wipe out the empire, Hades put him down for good. A month later, Jill's magic is still sealed, but the real shocker, she just turned 11. Hades acts like he's celebrating, but let's be real, he would have preferred her if she were still 7. Determined to end things once and for all, Jill teleports back to Bilbert and confronts Ferris, finally connecting the dots. Ferris created the fake heavenly family sword, and Gerald handed it to George. Vera is actually the goddess embodiment and knows everything about Jill's past life. Jill tries to fight her, but gets absolutely bodied. Before she's finished off, Rafe instinctively teleports her into Realm. Despite all that chaos, Jill joins Hades as his coronation, where he publicly declares the marriage, and yep, that's official, Jill is now the Empress.